After my dad died, I found a locked briefcase in his closet. Inside were dozens of Polaroids of me sleeping from different ages, all taken from the same angle, labeled with dates and times, and one final photo taped to the bottom that just said tomorrow, 3:08 a.m. last one. My dad passed away on a Sunday. It wasn't sudden. We've been expecting it for months. Lung cancer. The kind that spreads before it even announces itself. When it finally happened, there wasn't some dramatic goodbye. Just quiet. Like he went out the same way he lived, contained, distant, always carrying something behind his eyes that no one ever really got to see. We buried him that Thursday. Small service. No speeches. My mom cried the entire time. I didn't. Not because I didn't care, but because I never really knew how to feel around him. He was always there but never really there. He showed up to my graduations. He paid for college. He fixed things around the house. But we never talked. Not about anything that mattered. A week after the funeral, my mom asked me to help clean out his closet. He kept everything. Old watches. Receipts from the 90s. Tools he never used. At the back of the top shelf, under a few shoeboxes, I found a locked briefcase. Black, heavy, real old school. No key in sight. I almost left it. But curiosity wins. It always does. I took it home, pried it open with a flathead and some pressure. Inside were stacks of Polaroids bundled with rubber bands. Neat. Too neat. Each stack had a sticky note on top, handwritten labels like age 6, age 9, age 12. I pulled out a few and immediately felt the air shift in the room. They were pictures of me. Sleeping. Different beds, different pajamas, different years, but all the same framing. Taken from the same angle, maybe from the doorway or the foot of the bed. Always at night. Always me, alone, unconscious. I look peaceful. That's what freaked me out the most. I kept going. Photo after photo. Dozens. Maybe over 100. Each with a timestamp scribbled in tiny handwriting at the bottom border. Exact times like 2:43 a.m., 3:11 a.m., 2:59 a.m. Never during the day. Always somewhere between midnight and 4 in the morning. At first, I thought maybe it was just a weird parenting thing. Maybe he was watching over me. Maybe he thought it was protective. But the more I looked, the more it felt methodical. Like he wasn't watching. He was recording. Studying. Every photo had a certain coldness to it. No warmth. Just documentation. Then I saw the last photo. It wasn't with the others. It was taped to the bottom of the briefcase. Different from the rest. The photo itself was blank, just a dark hallway, grainy, poorly lit. No one in the shot. But at the bottom, written in red ink, not black, was this. Tomorrow. 3:08 a.m. Last one. That's when I stopped. My stomach dropped in a way I can't explain. It was already 10 p.m. Tomorrow was just hours away. I held the photo like it was burning. My dad was dead. He couldn't take another photo. He shouldn't be able to. But the note said otherwise. Tomorrow, 3:08 a.m. Last one. The way it was written didn't sound like a plan. It sounded like a schedule. Like something had already been set. Like something was going to happen whether I liked it or not. I checked every door in the house. Every window. Locked them twice. Closed every curtain. Brought the briefcase with me into the living room and just sat there staring at it. Every minute felt heavier. I couldn't bring myself to throw the photos away. Couldn't even hide them. I just left the whole briefcase on the table like it was a person I didn't want to turn my back on. I didn't know if it was paranoia, grief, or something worse, but I knew one thing, I wasn't going to sleep that night. I didn't go to bed. I couldn't. I kept checking the time every few minutes like watching the clock would slow it down. It didn't. Midnight came and went. The silence in the house started to feel unnatural. No creaks, no passing cars, not even the hum of the fridge. Just stillness. At 2:30 a.m. I moved from the couch to the hallway facing my bedroom door, the same spot every photo had been taken from. I stared at it for a long time. Then I opened the door, turned on the light, and looked around. Nothing was off. Same bed, same nightstand, same posters I hadn't taken down in years. I stood there thinking maybe this was all just some strange obsession my dad had. Maybe the final photo was never meant to be taken. Maybe he wrote that and never got the chance. Maybe that was all. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the number 3:08 a.m. meant something more. So I stayed in the hallway. Watched the door. Waited. At 2:56, my phone buzzed with a low battery warning. I didn't move to plug it in. Just sat against the wall, legs crossed, facing the door like I was guarding it, like something might come through it. And then at exactly 3:08 a.m., the power cut out. No warning. Just darkness. The hum of the ceiling fan stopped. The light under the door disappeared. The house fell into this thick, unnatural quiet, like sound had been turned off altogether. I froze. There was no wind, no flickering lights. Just off. Everything. And then I heard the camera click. Soft. Mechanical. Familiar. That quick, distinct snap and whir of an old instant Polaroid shutter. Came from my room. I jumped to my feet and opened the door. Nothing. No one was inside. Just my bed. Still made. No movement. But the smell was there. The chemical sting of photo paper like film had just been exposed. I flipped on my phone flashlight and scanned the room. Nothing. No figure. No person. Just the same quiet bedroom I grew up in. Until I saw it. On the bed. A fresh Polaroid, still developing. I stepped closer. The white was fading into the image, slowly bringing it to life. It was me. Right there in the photo. From the angle of the doorway. Sitting outside the door. The photo had been taken seconds ago, before I moved, before I opened the door. I turned in every direction, checked every inch of the hallway, the closet, even under the bed. Nothing. There was no one there. I was alone. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even sit down. I stayed awake until the sun came up. The power came back at 7:14 a.m. like nothing ever happened. Lights blinked on. The fan whirred back to life. Normal sounds returned like someone pressed unpause on the house. I went back to the living room. The briefcase was still there. I opened it again. The Polaroids were unchanged. All of them. lined up by age. My face older and older in each one. But now there was one more. The new photo. It fit perfectly at the end of the row. Same angle. Same timestamp on the back. 3:08 a.m. And one note scribbled across the bottom in red ink. Last one. I don't know what my dad was doing all those years. I don't know what he was trying to capture or prove. But I do know this, he didn't miss a single year. He never skipped a photo. And somehow, even after death, he made sure the final one was taken. After that night, I couldn't just move on. I didn't feel scared. I felt watched. Studied. Not by some ghost or shadow, but by the memory of someone who'd been tracking me for years. My dad. The man who barely spoke, never hugged, and yet had a secret archive of my entire sleeping life. I started digging. I went through his files, his hard drives, even the old family camcorder tapes. Most of it was boring: taxes, tool receipts, vacation videos. But then I found a folder on an external drive. It was labeled only with my initials. Inside were logs. Timestamped journal entries. Some were typed. Some scanned in, handwritten. All of them were about me. But not the kind of stuff you'd expect, no milestones or proud parent notes. These were clinical. Precise. Like he was documenting something specific. Subject: consistent stillness between 3:05 and 3:10 a.m. Age 6, no response to external audio stimuli. Polaroid capture 14 successful. Angle preserved. Lighting controlled. Age 9. Subtle movement detected at 3:08 a.m. Log: minor REM shift. Retake required. Entry after entry, all with the same pattern. Always focused on the same minute. Always 3:08 a.m. Every single year. From the time I was 4 all the way to this year. He never missed it. I thought maybe it was mental illness. Obsession. But then I found something else. A scanned page from an old notebook, my grandfather's name scribbled at the top. My dad's handwriting below it. A note that said it skipped a generation. I'll watch him like my father watched me. I sat there staring at the screen. The line repeated in my head. I'll watch him like my father watched me. Was this some kind of family ritual? A pattern? Paranoia passed down? I asked my mom if my grandfather ever acted strange. She hesitated, then admitted he used to sleep in a chair outside my dad's room when he was a kid. Said he claimed it was to keep him safe. She'd never thought much of it. Just figured it was overprotectiveness. Maybe trauma from the war. But now it was lining up too perfectly. Generations. One parent watching their child sleep every year at the same time. Documenting it. Photographing it. For what? There were no explanations. No names. No curses. Just patterns. And that final photo. The one that said last one. Maybe he thought it would end with him. Maybe he believed completing the final photo meant the cycle was over. That whatever he was watching for, waiting for, it had passed. Or maybe he was wrong. Maybe the last one isn't ever really the last one. I kept the briefcase. Not out of fear. Out of caution. I locked it again, stored it in the attic, and made no copies of the photos. I didn't destroy them either. Something told me that would be a mistake. But I also did one thing my dad never did. I talked. I started therapy. Told the story to someone trained to hear this kind of thing. I didn't say it was paranormal. I didn't ask them to explain it. I just said what happened. Every detail. The photos. The timestamps. The final one. And the therapist asked me one thing I hadn't thought of. She said, "Do you remember waking up ever while he took one of them?" And I didn't. Not once. Not a single memory. Not even a flicker. And somehow that's what haunts me the most.